In this video, we are going to cover some basics of reading. I would like to note that the writer of this particular video is Mrs. Kimberling. She is responsible for the bulk of the information. Today, we also have a guest. His name is Jeff. Say hello, Jeff.
Hello, Jeff.
Now that we've gotten introductions and overused jokes out of the way, let me communicate something. We, Jeff and I, are but mere vessels used to transport her wisdom and knowledge to you.
At first, you might think, what? Why do I need to know about reading? I already know how to read.
Although this is true, an understanding of how reading actually works can help us improve our reading skills.
So, let's get started.
Reading, although taught to elementary children, is actually elementary children.
I know, there was...
I'm going to say elementary students.
Okay, do it.
Reading, although taught to elementary students, is actually a very complex process which takes place in one's brain.
Okay, here we go. It's an act of translating symbols into sounds, then words, then sentences. And all of this info must be synthesized into meaningful communication, which is ultimately very cool.
Very cool. Studies in neuroscience indicate that spoken language comes naturally. An infant, though unable to produce the accurate sounds initially, has actually already begun the process of acquiring language. Boo-ba-ga-da-da.
No, like a baby.
Oh.
Perfect. This indicates that language learning is biologically wired into our system as humans, which is way cool. It's like we're pre-programmed like mutants or something, and you thought you weren't in the Matrix.
Whoa.
Oh goodness.
Reading, however, is something that is not natural. It must be taught. Research has stated that reading is also the most difficult task that we ask our brains to do. This is one of the reasons the USA has so many illiterate individuals.
Even if a person is not illiterate, which means that they're unable to read or write at all, according to the National Assessment of Education Progress, the NAEP, 1 out of every 3 students has a reading problem.
This poses a serious issue as students progress through school. The literacy demands increase dramatically, especially in higher education. A number of theories exist as to why these problems occur.
The theories surrounding the problem as to why students have learning difficulties include the following.
Inadequate reading instruction, which is to say that some students have not been taught how to read well.
Another theory states the increased use of technology is to blame. The idea behind this is that technology has allowed the brain to intake information passively instead of actively.
Some cite social and cultural causes, while others state there are also physical causes such as
Linguini gaps or non-linguini conditions.
I don't like those non-linguini conditions.
I'm hungry.
Let's eat. Okay. While others state there are also physical causes such as linguistic gaps and non-linguistic conditions such as behavioral disorders.
The list could go on for eternity and beyond.
However, more important than how this has occurred is what can we do about it?
Because educational demands are not diminishing, literacy will continue to be a mark of an educated person. We don't see this trend changing for a while. Thus, an individual experiencing a literacy demand beyond his or her comfort level must discover strategies to adapt and overcome the challenges in order to be successful.
As previously stated, college is definitely a place where literacy demands may increase significantly. Not only are students required to grapple with more complex literature, students are asked to read a greater volume of material than in high school.
Here's some good news. Although it's not an easy task, reading is a skill, and skills can be developed and improved.
Yay!
Brain imaging studies have revealed there are many areas of the brain which work in concert with one another to achieve the process of effective reading. Here's a simple example. When performing a concert, there may be different instruments working together. When the many instruments perform their parts in unison, it produces a beautiful symphony.
These imaging studies have also revealed the skilled reader and novice reader use different pathways in the brain. For children, the more practice in reading, the better his or her ability to become proficient. Practice makes both perfect and permanent.
For an adolescent or adult who did not become a skilled reader while their brain was developing, the process of developing proficient reading skills is much harder, but not impossible.
When looking at the brain scan of the unskilled reader, we can see they use a different part of the brain. The unskilled young adult has trained his or her brain to use a method similar to the novice reader. This novice method I'm talking about is primarily sounding out all the individual words instead of rapidly moving through the text. This is due to a lack of both sight word recognition and lack of developed vocabularies.
The pathways of the brain are deep, and activating a new part of the brain is not easily done. However, new research in the concept of neuroplasticity shows that in time, and with focused attention, new pathways can be carved out and old pathways discarded.
Thus, theoretically, it is possible to make great improvements. Woohoo!
All right!
Yeah! But what does all of this mean practically for your current situation?
Well, we know the brain is wired to make connections. Thank you, Matrix. We also know the brain is constantly searching for meaning. Let me blow your mind. Reading is a form of communication. Okay, your brain may not be blown, but it's still pretty cool. Reading occurs when communication has taken place between the author and the audience, the writer and the reader. This communication happens across both space and time.
Many students check the box of reading when their eyes have skimmed the words on the page.
Haha!
But in truth, when a student did not comprehend what was being communicated, reading has not occurred.
Oh.
For instance, I can travel around the world and see signs everywhere and even recognize the letters like these. Svencionelli apate kapalvago. Svencionelli apatica?
Apotica? We could look up the pronunciation.
Sven. But I could never claim to read them until I could actually associate their full meaning in any context, not to mention correct pronunciation.
Apetica is the word for a pharmacy in Serbia, and lago is the Italian word for lake. Now, you're ready to explore the world, but first, let's finish this lesson.
Unfortunately, there are times when our textbooks can truly appear like they have been written in a foreign language, and this can make reading difficult. Remember, our brains are experiencing the hardest tasks we can ask them to do.
This is when many students reach their frustration level. And decide to skip the reading. After all, they can get the gist in class. They could even check out someone else's notes, right?
This decision, although understandable, can actually undermine a student's overall success in the course, which can lead to a lower GPA and even exclusion from desired fields of study.
Not to mention eternal, ever-wandering loneliness.
Loneliness! Well, perhaps, but definitely the other stuff. Thus, finding ways to persist and cope with challenging text is a much better solution and can allow the student to begin improving those neurological pathways for future reading success.
There is a practical approach to reading called the Key 3 reading routine.
Yeah!
This is a routine you may do periodically. In this case, every single time you approach a text. Monitoring your reading in these 3 steps can set you up for success.
Step 1. Preview the text. Let's be honest, most students either A. skip this step altogether and just jump into the reading, or B. only do this step, skimming headings, pictures, and call it good.
I could hear it now. Come on! Why would I look at something twice? That takes too much time. I have better things to do than read for this class. Well, this begs the question,
Please, please!
why is this step so important? 1. It helps you get a feel for the level of reading difficulty. 2. It allows you to estimate how long it should take you to complete the assigned reading. And 3. It activates prior knowledge, which can help you build those pathways in your brain.
So what is the most effective way to accomplish this step in textbook reading? Read the headings, subtitles, emphasized words, and bolded words. This step creates a mental structure for you to fill in as you read, helping your brain find meaning in the text as it follows the outline. It also activates any prior knowledge you may have on the subject, which, hopefully, you will then be able to link the new information to.
Make sure to preview pictures, charts, and graphs. While you may need to study those more in depth later, images are powerful. Having a picture of where you're headed to in the reading is helpful.
Read any summary questions found either throughout the chapter or at the end of a section. See what questions you would already be able to take a guess on. Hold this guess tentatively so you can confirm your accuracy when you read. See what concepts you're expected to know that may be a bit foreign to you. Plan on spending extra time and attention on these concepts when you come across them in the reading. Another tip is take note of the length of the assigned reading. This is an echo back to the whole time management thing. Set a reasonable goal. Can you truly tackle the reading in one sitting? Do you need to break it up? If you think you should take it in smaller doses, when can you schedule another time for a homework session?
It would also be a good idea to see if the assigned reading is going to be particularly difficult. If you think that it is, be sure to grab a dictionary or pull one up on your phone so you can look up words that you aren't familiar with. Another good idea is to grab other materials such as pencils and highlighters to make notes. If you can't write in your book, post-it notes or blank paper outline may be the thing for you.
Step 2. Read and self-monitor. Remember, reading involves gleaning meaning from the words on the page. Gleaning meaning. The kind I like to meet, gleaning meaning. Ugh. This involves metacognition, thinking about thinking, and allows you to monitor your progress. Throughout your time reading, ask yourself the following question. Am I clicking or clunking?
Okay, a bit cheesy, but think of it like this. If your reading is clicking, your internal dialogue should have similar thoughts to the following. Yes, that makes sense.
I hadn't realized that.
But why does that happen?
How does this connect to...
Aha!
If you're clunking, however, it is more like your bicycle wheels have been replaced with ones that are misshapen. Or you are on a path with many potholes and obstacles. Your thoughts will resemble more... what have I just read?
The what, huh?
I am so confused! I get it. This is where most people quit, but not you, because remember, you were prepared. You previewed and you thought you might run into some trouble, so you are going to take some of the following steps.
Step 1. Take some deep breaths and count to 10 so you don't get frustrated. Seriously, put things into perspective here. It's just going to affect the rest of your life.
Step 2. Use that app or dictionary to look up the words that are giving you trouble.
Step 3. Reread the confusing parts multiple times if necessary.
Step 4. Break the sentences down and then piece together the meaning.
Step 5. Write out questions that you can ask a friend, mentor, tutor, instructor, etc., 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 very soon.
Step 6. Ask a friend to do the reading together, where you all can pause and discuss the confusing parts.
Step 7. Try reading the passage out loud instead of silently, because some things actually make more sense when we hear them.
And finally, take a small break if necessary. Get up and move around, but come back soon, and please, do not give up. Summarize.
Congratulations! You made it through the reading! Whether you clicked through or clunked a lot, it is an accomplishment worth celebrating.
Okay. Your knowledge has expanded as you have received information from the authors and you have a lot of facts floating around in your short-term memory.
However, you are not quite done.
What?
Yeah, you see, that short-term memory won't help you out very much on your test next week, after you have read about 5 more chapters. You have just put a fair amount of time and effort into this endeavor, and the last thing you want is for it to have zero payoff when you need to make the grade.
Therefore, you must complete this third step, summarizing. Here are some reasons for summarization. Summarization helps you commit the information you read to long-term memory. It also verifies that your understanding was accurate. Finally, it provides a mental file folder to retrieve when necessary.
Also, here are some effective ways to summarize. You can rewrite the main ideas. Don't just copy the headings from the book. From memory, recall and rewrite the main ideas to solidify them in your long-term memory. If it is necessary to glance back and update, do so. But do your best to practice recall and exercise your memory.
Self-test yourself. If you notice when you previewed the text it had written questions, do your best to answer them. If you struggle with some, go back and review those parts and then try again.
Here's my favorite. It may exhaust your friends, so try it on your family and church peeps. Teach the chapter to a friend. So many of us learn by doing. When we are explaining a concept or terms to someone else, we can truly recognize if we understand it for ourselves.
Thus, in summation, reading is not a natural ability. It takes years of practice and time invested to become proficient.
However, reading is a valuable skill that can be developed, and it provides a way for people to be lifelong learners. Thus, those who experience reading problems should work hard to overcome them.
One strategy to improve reading is the key 3 reading routine. Preview, read, monitor, am I clicking or clunking, and summarize. This routine, though it requires time and effort to be effective, can be a great step in helping a student improve their reading skills and make the most of the course materials in their educational experience. Sorry.
Well, that's all the time that I have for today.
Yada yada yada.
I meant, like, the yada yada was like, well, thanks for stopping by, Jeff. I was like, I'm not going to write all that out.
Let's try that again, I guess. Sorry.
Well, that's all the time that I have for today.
Well, Jeff, I really appreciate you coming down to help.
Anytime.
Anytime?
Like, maybe one more time.
I think this is fun to do, but it's more fun with you. You're so good at this, Jeff.
Thank you. It's kind of my life job.